Thank you so much for tuning in. I'm Rashawn 11, Realtor with KW United. So today's video is on the pain points for buyers in 2025. So let's get into it. I got my notes because I want to make sure that I don't forget anything. So high home prices. So many buyers are, I'll just say this, they're frustrated because of the sales prices are they're just kind of out of reach. Like, I want to grab it. You see, it's there. Like, I want it, but it's hard to get. And I think people really didn't notice the importance of, maybe they did, but to me, yes, price matters, but more so interest rate matters more, because if interest rates were really, when they had gotten real low to like 2%, everybody, I won't say everybody can afford a house, but the cost of money was significantly lower, so everyone could purchase a home. But you remember at that time, it was frustrating. You're always going to have frustrations and challenges with every market, because in the pandemic market, yes, the cost of money was less because we didn't want the market to tank. But the challenge with that was it was a bidding war. The most that I had on one of my listings for contracts was 25 contracts, which is insane. So when you're thinking about that, and that's actually not a lot. From what I've seen, from what I had seen, like the most I had ever heard of was like 50 contracts. It wasn't me, but how do you even review 50 contracts? I mean, I don't understand. But at that time, things were different. So you always have to find what the challenges are. So if the cost of money was less, then nobody really would complain about price. If you think about it, you wouldn't. So moving on. So elevated mortgage rates. They're yo-yoing. We were thinking they were coming down, but they went back up. So it's a lot going on. And a lot of people are saying, oh, well, I'm going to wait to buy when rates are down. We will be back with what did I just say, with the bidding war frenzy. And then you really will be priced out of the market even more, because if somebody's willing to overpay, you wouldn't have contingencies in place. And nobody really wants to write an offer like that, but they did. So, and then are you even equipped to do that? Are you willing to pay $30,000, $40,000 over, asking price and waiving all your contingencies? Are you willing to do that? No. So, there you go. It's still limited housing inventory. So even though housing inventory has picked up significantly than it has been recently, it's still low. It's still not, 6-7 months of inventory. It's about 2. So it's still low in certain price points. So that's a challenge as well. Fourth pain point, saving for the down payment. Now, I can alleviate all of these pain points. We can alleviate in some way, but the challenge is saving for a down payment, because everything else in the world is more. Gas is more, food is more, utilities are more. Everything else is going up, but the income is really not going up with it. So it's you have this issue of qualifying and being able to save money. But there are programs for down payment, so we can talk about that. Excuse me. And competition, point 5, competition with cash buyers. How do you compete, especially if you're in a lower price point? How do you compete with a cash buyer? Because investors are always trying to find a deal. They call me every day. Oh, do you have any off-market properties? Do you have anything? Because everybody's always trying to find the next deal. So they have cash. A lot of people still have cash. A lot of people are cash poor, but a lot of people still have cash. They have to figure out what they're going to do with their money. So when you're in even if you're in the market, you say, oh, well, I still want to buy. My payment is going to be more than what I really want it to be, but I still want to own a home. if you're in that market, you are still competing with not only other buyers that are getting financing, you're competing with cash buyers, investors. Like, well, I'm going to buy and hold this, I'm going to pay cash. Unfortunately, sellers always, not saying always, but they will prefer cash because then they don't have to worry about, okay, well, your deal may fall apart, they're going to pay cash. They always want to take the deal that is going to cause them the less pain, like the topic of this, the less pain. It's not going to be, oh, I got to come back on the market because you didn't like what was in inspection. You're not going to be nitpicking me on every single thing that's going to get on my nerves. So that is what your competition is. So next point, feeling overwhelmed. Point 6, feeling overwhelmed about the process because there's a lot of moving parts. And I feel like buyers can be overwhelmed about the process when they skip one step. When you skip the step of a home buyer consultation, you're going to be overwhelmed. And especially if you have a consultation that is not complete, is what I call complete, is thorough, to actually understand your needs and to understand the whole scope and what you're supposed to do. So you're going to be overwhelmed because you're not going to know what to do. So don't skip that step. Next, concerns about future values. Some buyers won't enter the market right now because they fear that, well, the market is at the top of what it is. And if they buy now, then they're going to be stuck. That's a possibility. I don't have a crystal ball, so I can't say what it's going to do, what it's not going to do. Balancing 8.8, balancing needs and budget. So you want this, but then the budget is here. So we got to kind of get even if we can. And if we can't, then, renting isn't terrible, but each year your rent's going to go up. So when you think about, like, say you say, oh, well, I don't really want to spend, like, I'm just going to use $4,000. So don't kill me in the comments, but I'm just going to use $4,000 as a number. You say, oh, well, I don't really want to spend $4,000 on a mortgage. Okay, that's fine. But you're renting a place right now for $3,200. That's fine. 10 years fly by. I'm pretty sure where you're living at now, if you continue to stay there or you upgrade, you'll be at the $4,000 that you didn't want to pay now. Now, if you can't afford that, that's different. But if you can't afford it, it just has to make sense. Like with the rental, you are either paying for the landlord or you're paying for the big corporation's net worth. So you are not building wealth. You're not helping generational wealth when you do not own a home. And then you may not like the apartment. Well, you know what I'm saying? You don't have your own. So that's that. But you do have to have a budget. Point 9, navigating loan options. Sometimes it can be overwhelming. But first step I would always say is figure out how much money you have saved and how much you're willing to contribute to your real estate transaction. Start there. Understand how much money you have going out for different things, your credit cards and other bills, revolving debt, student loans, car loans, and all that. And then after that, you say, okay, well, if you should have money saved to buy a house. You shouldn't buy a house with no money. But you say, okay, well, I have X, Y, and Z, but I still need some money for the down payment. There are 100% programs where you don't have to be a first-time home buyer to do them. You can be a first-time home buyer to do them. And there are actually programs that actually have grants. And a grant we love because that's free money that we don't have to pay back, which is excellent. So there are different ways. You just have to find the right person and the expert in that field, which is a realtor. You shouldn't do this on your own, but a lot of people feel that they can, that we're not needed. Now, some agents aren't needed, but I won't get on that tangent today. But you need to have a professional that knows what they're doing. They're in the weeds. They're in the trenches. Every day, they see what the market is doing. They know. They know. You don't do this every day. You're in IT. You're in the government. You're in healthcare. You're in law enforcement. or your nurse, or whatever you're doing, that is what you know. You are trained in that field. Like, I'm not going to come to my doctor and say, oh yeah, you don't know about my vital signs. I know this. Yeah, I didn't go to school for that. Yeah. Or you're taking my blood wrong. I didn't go to school for that. You only are the expert in what you're feeling, your education, what you're doing. So unless you're a realtor, then, you know, you're not the expert. So, but then you wouldn't need me anyway. So that's that point. So, final points. Fear of making a poor investment. So sometimes a buyer could fear they're making the wrong investment. They're just like, oh, well, you know, I made the poor choice and, you know, this wasn't the right thing for me. I mean, think about it. Sleep on it. I mean, in this market now that we have more houses, you actually can think about houses a little bit longer than you used to. Otherwise, it's like, well, if you like it, let's get it. Let's write it on the car. Let's do it. But now we have time to think about it a little bit more than what we did. Depends on every house is different. That's why I tell people, real estate, we look at it on a national level, but then locally, depends on price point also. And then neighborhood. You could have two neighborhoods, one side by side. Everything sells in like a week here, but then over here it takes a little bit longer because either, well, every house sells for the right price and the right condition. So either they didn't stage, or it's too cluttered, or it smells like animals or smoke, or whatever reason was a reason why somebody wouldn't purchase. So, you know, be careful. Like, look at feedback. If you're a seller looking at this, feedback is important. Don't take it personal. I know it is personal because it is your house, but take it and say, maybe I'll look into that. Don't take it as somebody like attacking you. I'm not attacking you. You wanted to know the feedback. Sometimes people say, oh, well, give me feedback. Sometimes say, do you really want me to give you feedback, or do you want me like to be nice? Feedback isn't saying, oh, well, I'm buying this house. That's not what feedback is. Feedback is, these are the things I liked about the house. These are the things I didn't like about the house. But the reason why I'm not submitting an offer are because of things I did not like about the house. Like, I'm not willing to, you're going to compromise on everything in life. But I'm not willing to compromise on these things. These things this house isn't excellent enough for me to say, I'm willing to put that aside, even though those aren't my deal breakers, but they're things that I can address later or whatever. Sometimes people don't want to do that. Some people will say, well, it has to be everything I want, or I don't want it, period. So that's all. But you have to make sure that you're making the right decision, and don't feel pressured into buying a house that really isn't for you. So that is all for today's video on pain points of buyers in 2025. I am Rashana Levin, realtor with KW United. If you have any real estate questions, give me a call at 240-284-4684.